TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. U.S. President Donald Trump asserts that he is not decided regarding the internationally aspired two-state solution vis-à-vis the Israel-Palestinian conflict. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announces that the United Kingdom is well placed to carry out the vital role of disarming Hamas. The Islamist Hamas has evidently altered its rhetoric, insisting that it will not negotiate on giving up its weaponry. U.S. President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi concluded a global summit on peace in which they had hosted leaders from 30 countries who prescribed to American leadership in signing a declarative document proclaiming a new era of peace in the Middle East.
At this historic milestone, where we all together have witnessed the reaching of Sharm el-Sheikh agreement on ending war in Gaza, and the birth of a glimpse of hope that such deal ends an agonizing chapter in the history of mankind and opens the door, ushering in a new era of peace and stability in the Middle East.
President Trump, for his part, echoed his Egyptian counterpart's characterization of the bright future for the volatile region. And yet, while voicing joy over the return of Israeli hostages from Hamas captivity, he similarly voiced grief over Hamas's claims that they cannot immediately locate all of the bodies of the hostages they had murdered, and therefore they claim to have to delay their return to Israel.
This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. They have done things over the last month that I think were really unthinkable. Nobody thought this could happen. With the historic agreement we've just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered. As you know, the hostages have been returned, and further work goes on having to do with the, sadly to say, bodies.
It is important to highlight that the Islamist Hamas had thus far only transferred 4 coffins of presumed Israeli hostages who are currently undergoing forensic tests. The remaining 24 bodies of hostages are scattered throughout the Gaza Strip, and while per the agreement with the Islamist Hamas, the terror group has a total of 72 hours to return them all, the Red Cross, which is charged with transporting the bodies, insists it may take much more time than the agreed-upon time frame.
There is clear indication that this might take much more time because of the difficulty to find the human remains in Gaza in particular. That's the case for the human remains of hostages, but in general, human remains, as we've discussed before, that may be under the rubble, considering the intensity of the conflict over the last days, particularly in Gaza City. Now, are they in Gaza City? Are they in the south of the Gaza Strip? Are they in the middle of the Gaza Strip? These are information that we don't have. I think that there is clearly a risk that will take much more time. What are we telling to the parties is that should be their top priorities. And again, not only when it comes to the human remains of hostages, but other human remains. A tendency that we have seen in other conflict zones is that the authorities, the moment there is a ceasefire, will postpone that, or there will be a rush to rebuild and then neglecting the research for human remains. So that's why in a moment where all want to rush, we, ICRC, remind the parties of the importance to respect that specific step. Obviously, again, for the families to be able to be notified as soon as possible.
Returning to President Trump's remarks at the summit in Egypt's Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, during which the American leader emphasized that while he had achieved that which, quote, everybody said was impossible, peace has been realized for the Middle East.
Together we've achieved what everybody said was impossible. At long last, we have peace in the Middle East, and it's a very simple expression, peace in the Middle East, and we've heard it for many years, but nobody thought it could ever get there, and now we're there. I want to congratulate everybody sitting in these first few rows and standing behind me.
President Trump continued by highlighting that the facilitation of additional humanitarian aid was already flooding the Gaza Strip.
After years of suffering and bloodshed, the war in Gaza is over. Humanitarian aid is now pouring in, including hundreds of truckloads of food, medical equipment, and other supplies, much of it paid for by people in this room. Civilians are returning to their homes. The hostages are reuniting. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm just watching it backstage. The level of love and sorrow, I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing when you see they haven't seen their mother, their father. They haven't seen them in such a long time, and they lived in a tunnel, a very little tunnel, very deep. And the level of love is just incredible. It's a beautiful thing to see. In one sense, it's so horrible that it could have taken place, but in another sense, it's so beautiful to see a new and beautiful day is rising, and now the rebuilding begins.
President Trump's commendable determination to bring an end to the Hamas-instigated war against Israel, which mostly raged in the Gaza Strip over the past 2 years, may prove a challenge. Footage emanating out of the war-battered enclave purports to show that Hamas terror operatives are once again systemically seizing control of humanitarian aid flooding into the territory. Moreover, Gazan and Israeli sources have confirmed to TV7 that the Islamist Hamas had not waited a single moment after the implementation of the ceasefire, with the internationally designated terror group launching a wide-scale operation against rival Palestinian clans, with mass executions in full display. And while President Trump's so-called peace plan includes the, quote, demilitarization of Gaza, which entails Hamas and all affiliated groups must surrender all weapons, including rockets, tunnels, and small arms verified by international inspectors within 30 days, senior Hamas official Fawzi Barhoum, who attended a meeting of Islamic scholars in Turkey's Diyarbakir, asserted in defiance, quote, "Our weapons are not up for negotiation. No one can take them from us." Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, before departing Sharm el-Sheikh, announced that the United Kingdom would be well placed to carry out the vital role of disarming Hamas.
It is critical now that all parties follow through on the commitments. Decommissioning of weaponry of Hamas is hugely and critically important for the future peace. We have got experience in this in relation to Northern Ireland and decommissioning of the IRA's weaponry, and that's why I do think, and I have suggested the UK would be well placed to carry out that vital role.
Meanwhile, in light of Hamas's consecutive violations and voiced intentions to defy President Trump's peace plan, the American leader, while on a flight back to Washington, was asked whether his decision to use the term peace wasn't premature.
Premature? Why? You want more people to be killed? What do you want, another 300,000-400,000 people to be killed? Is that what you're looking for?
But in terms of the risks in Gaza, we're already seeing...
Risk. So you mean let them fight on for another couple of years and let some more buildings fall down on top of people and keep it going? No, we did it the right way. We did it. I think our timing was perfect, actually.
President Trump was further asked about the repeated statements voiced by the summit's host, namely Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who proclaimed that the American leader's plan was in fact the necessary foundation for a political process that would lead to the internationally aspired two-state solution.
You're talking about a different plan. I'm talking about something very much different. We're talking about rebuilding Gaza. I'm not talking about single state or double state or two state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
President Donald Trump continued by stressing that at some point he would decide on the matter of a final solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict which he intends to do in consultation with additional states.
At some point, I'll decide what I think is right, but I'd be in coordination with other states and other countries.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to highlight that TV7 Israel is exclusively donation-based, with all of our daily updates aired free of charge. Therefore, if you're blessed by the content of our programs from Jerusalem and would like to help TV7 continue to air our productions regularly, please support TV7 Israel with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to also encourage you to keep praying for all of the hostages who now have to start their healing process. Pray also for the Christians and Druze facing a brutal siege by the Damascus regime in southern Syria, where the humanitarian conditions are deteriorating by the day. And pray also for the Christian community facing genocide by Boko Haram in Nigeria. And last, but certainly not least, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.